Someone ever stolen from you right under your nose? Not money, not food, not even anything you could physically hold, but raw electricity, siphoned straight out of your system as if you were some kind of free charging station. That's what I was facing. My setup was acting off every night, power bleeding away like something invisible was feeding on it. At first, I chalked it up to technical issues, maybe a faulty battery cell, maybe the inverter finally giving out. But the truth I uncovered later made my blood burn, because it wasn't malfunction, it was theft. Someone was sneaking their luxury Tesla into my solar grid, draining my energy, running up my costs, and assuming I'd stay oblivious. And the insult that cut deeper. It wasn't some desperate neighbor. No, it was the self-appointed HOA cop, the guy who strutted around in his dollar store tactical vest pretending to wield authority that nobody ever gave him. The same man who barked out rules as though he were sheriff of the block. The warning signs started small, lights flickering, batteries draining faster than expected, utility costs creeping higher when they should have been falling. I knew my system inside and out. I wired it, I paid for every panel, and I tracked every amp like it was a heartbeat. When the math stopped adding up, suspicion turned to resolve. So, one night, I planted myself by the blinds, coffee in hand, waiting. Sure enough, not long after midnight, a shadow crept across my driveway. And there he was, the HOA cop himself, not with a clipboard or walkie-talkie, but dragging that bright orange Tesla cable like he was plugging into his personal wall socket. He walked up as if my outlet belonged to him, hooked in, and leaned smugly against his gleaming car while my solar power poured into his battery. That's when I realized, this wasn't laziness. This was arrogance dressed up as fake authority. I wasn't going to let it slide. The next day, in broad daylight, I confronted him. I called him out directly. I saw you charging off my grid. That's theft. He didn't even flinch. He smirked, adjusted his sunglasses, and tossed out nonsense about neighborhood ordinance, allowing him to tap community resources. I nearly laughed. Community resources? My solar array wasn't some communal plug. It was private property, built by my hands, financed by my wallet, and protected by the law. But he didn't stop. Night after night, he came back. Sometimes hiding his car halfway down the drive, sometimes bold as ever, daring me to speak. The losses showed in my readings every morning. I realized talk was pointless. This man needed to learn a lesson. I reached out to the county energy office, and they confirmed what I already suspected. Connecting without permission was theft of services, plain and simple. Same category as stealing gas or pirating cable. That gave me the clarity I needed. My inverter allowed for voltage tweaks, something most homeowners never touch, but I knew how. With a few adjustments, my system could feed a surge into ungrounded connections. Not dangerous, not illegal, but devastating to delicate electronics if someone tried to sneak in. I set up a hidden camera by the outlet, ready to capture everything. And then I waited. Sure enough, the following night, headlights glided up quiet as a ghost. He climbed out, cable in hand, plugged in, and leaned back against his car. Everything looked routine at first. The charging light blinked steady, the screen glowed blue. But then the trap snapped shut. A low hum filled the air, subtle but growing. Seconds later, sparks spat from the Tesla's port, the light turned angry red, and then, pop. A sharp flash, a crackle, and suddenly the car's alarm was screaming into the night. He stumbled back in shock. I couldn't help but laugh. Loud enough for him to hear. He spun toward me, furious, shouting accusations that I'd sabotaged him. Calm as ever, I stood and told him the truth. I didn't sabotage anything, I protected my property. And I had him on video stealing from me, weeks of proof. He raged, threatened arrests, claimed HOA authority. That nearly made me choke with laughter. I pulled out my phone, recording light glowing, and reminded him he wasn't a real officer, and he'd just confessed to utility theft on tape. His face drained, but instead of retreating, he doubled down, calling in Karen, the HOA president. Within minutes she rolled up in her SUV, stomping into my driveway with the confidence of a dictator. She accused me of harassment, insisted he was conducting official HOA business, and declared my system part of community resources. The stupidity was beyond belief. What they didn't know was that I'd already called the sheriff's department when the car alarm blared. And right on cue, real deputies rolled up, red and blue lights flashing across the street. They asked who the homeowner was. I raised my hand. Instantly, the HOA cop and Karen tried to turn the tables, claiming I sabotaged the car. But the deputies weren't buying it. I showed them the footage, clear as day, him plugging in, draining power, then the surge. The officers nodded, confirming it was theft of services and trespassing. When Karen tried to argue, they shut her down cold, reminding her HOA rules don't override property law. By the end of the night, he was cited for theft and trespassing, and Karen got slapped with obstruction for trying to interfere. They were both hauled off, their authority crumbling in the glow of police lights. The Tesla sat dead in my driveway, its battery fried. But it didn't end there. I filed a civil suit against him for every kilowatt he stole, and the court awarded me over $50,000 in damages. Karen, disgraced and broke, was voted off the board and forced to sell her home. The HOA itself was dismantled, stripped of its charter, erased from existence. As for me, my power was mine again, my system untouched, peace restored. I leaned back one last time, coffee in hand, smiling at the quiet street. That was the moment I thought to myself, this is what happens when bullies forget who really holds the power. So tell me, was justice served, or did I go too far by dragging the whole HOA into the fallout?